From here, it looks like an art show with music memorabilia. And in some ways it is, except that these pieces are up for auction at an event this week in London. If you were to add up the anticipated value of all the items combined, they were expected to fetch more than $4 million. So what specifically are collectors willing to pay huge sums of money for? Well, for Beatles fans, a pair of instantly recognizable glasses worn by John Lennon in the early 1970s are offered here. A slightly larger pair worn by Elvis Presley in his later years are available too, as well as handwritten lyrics by Jimi Hendrix. A red guitar damaged the night in 2009 when the band Oasis broke up, and a white fedora. Michael Jackson fans would call it the white fedora he wore in the Smooth Criminal music video. A music specialist at the prop store auction house says this event is all about nostalgia, remembering the first bands people saw, the first music they bought, something that takes them back and puts a grin on their faces. On The World from A to Z, our news aims to be strictly unbiased. But how I feel about Fridays isn't. They're awesome! I'm Carl Azuz, and it's great to have you watching this October 24th. The United States and Europe are trying to ramp up pressure on Russia to end more than 3.5 years of war in neighboring Ukraine. Russia fully invaded that country in 2022, and despite years of calls for peace from leaders, lawmakers, aid groups, and international organizations, the two countries remain locked in conflict. This week, the Trump administration said Americans could no longer do business with Russia's two biggest oil companies. American officials say it's a hefty penalty that'll hurt Russia's ability to pay for the war in Ukraine. Russia's government said it would hurt global economic stability, but not have much of an effect on Russia's economy. This isn't the only new challenge that economy is facing, though. On Thursday, the European Union said its members, more than 24 countries across Europe, would stop buying liquefied natural gas from Russia. Same goal with that, to hurt its economy enough to make Russia want to talk peace. Russia's response there, that previous European penalties weren't effective and that these won't be either. Ukraine's leader says the new sanctions send a message to Russia that war comes at a cost. And Reuters News reports that Chinese state companies, as well as oil refiners in India, are reducing or suspending their imports of some Russian oil. Analysts say this will reduce revenue for Russia, but that it would also lead to an increase in global oil prices, and those prices did jump yesterday in response to all the news. Both the U.S. and Russia have left the door open to continuing negotiations over Ukraine, but when we produced this show, no new meetings had been scheduled between U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Word of knowledge. Which of these countries didn't achieve independence until 1929? Afghanistan, New Zealand, Panama, the Vatican. Though its roots go back to the year 754 AD, the seat of the Roman Catholic Church, the Vatican, didn't achieve independence from Italy until 1929.
Britain's King Charles III and Queen Camilla traveled to the Vatican this week for a state visit. It's a very formal event, held in part to show diplomatic cooperation and friendship between two leaders. This was the first time the British king met with Pope Leo XIV, and there was a historic element to it. In his role as king, Charles is the head of the Church of England. It was established as King Henry VIII broke away from the Roman Catholic Church during the Protestant Reformation of the 16th century. Now, as the two religious groups cooperate more closely and want to portray a strengthening relationship, their leaders prayed together on Thursday, the first time that had happened in 500 years.
Officially, the Vatican City State, it's not only where the Pope lives, but it's actually the world's smallest country, just over 100 acres surrounded by Rome, Italy. Population, roughly 882 people. But not just anyone can live there. To reside in the Vatican, you must be the Pope, a cardinal, a diplomat, in the Swiss Guard, or a family member, or a worker that helps keep the place running. And every country needs a government. The Vatican is the only absolute monarchy in Europe today, with the Pope at its head. He has absolute power over Vatican City's executive, legislative, and judicial branches. But he delegates a lot to governing bodies that act on his behalf. The Vatican also has all the trappings of a nation. It mints its own euros, prints its own stamps, issues passports and license plates, operates media outlets, and even has its own flag and anthem. But you don't need a passport to enter this country. There's free public access to St. Peter's Square and Basilica, and whenever there is a papal general audience. The Vatican museums and Sistine Chapel are also open to the public, with an entrance fee, of course. The Vatican City's economy is supported by various means, such as those admission fees, sale of stamps and souvenirs, publications, and donations from Catholics around the world. The Vatican has no armed forces of its own, but it does have the Swiss Guard, a military group responsible for the personal security of the Pope and those living at the Vatican. And like Switzerland, Vatican City is a neutral state. It's also a UNESCO World Heritage Site, home to some of the world's most well-known and influential architecture, paintings, and documents, in sites like St. Peter's Basilica, the Sistine Chapel, the Vatican Museums, and the Vatican Apostolic Archives. There's works by Michelangelo and Raphael, and even documents like the papal bull that announced Martin Luther's excommunication. All of that contained in this city-state. No wonder some 6 million people visit every year.
On this date in world history. Rewinding the clock to 1861, America's first transcontinental telegraph line was completed on October 24th. It instantly revolutionized long-distance communications in the country and made the Pony Express, the 2,000-mile-long horseback mail service, obsolete. What's known as Black Thursday occurred in the U.S. stock market on October 24th, 1929. It marked the beginning of the great crash of that year as share prices dropped, trading broke records, and investors panicked. The worldwide Great Depression followed shortly after the days-long catastrophic market drop. And October 24th is United Nations Day, commemorating the date in 1945 when the UN Charter officially took effect. Major goals of the organization included upholding international law, helping people in need, and maintaining global peace and security. Recent years have seen more conflicts around the world than at any point since the UN was established.
Your school can unlock all this with a $25,000 travel scholarship. Teachers, enter now for the chance to win.
Our fantastic 4 for Friday kick off in the Constitution State. Mrs. Edinger's class is there, watching from Granby, Connecticut, home of Granby Memorial High School. We'll make a stop in the Palmetto State before moving inland. Miss Solnick's class is with us from Forest Creek Middle in Fort Mill, South Carolina. And we see Miss Mango's class in Lebanon, Tennessee. Wilson Central High School is the home of the Wildcats. Finally, from the Beehive State of Utah, we welcome Mrs. Borg's class at Central Utah Detention Center. It's in the city of Richfield.
Don't look now. An elephant shielding its peepers and a bird getting blasted in the beak are among the finalists for the Nikon Comedy Wildlife Awards, the annual funny photography series highlighting creatures aggressively hugging and massively mugging for the cameras. Look at that big old bear smile. Even the most emo entrants help support sustainable conservation organizations. Some entries fully prepared to kick the competition, or maybe that's a high five? Others seemingly ready to lick the competition. Some nominees simply surprised to be included among the prodigious picks. The Laugh Out Loud list of finalists has 40 photos, 3 portfolios, and 10 videos whittled down from nearly 10,000 images of animal antics. The overall comedy champ will be announced at an awards night in London in December. Until then, feel free to whisper to a close friend who you think will win.
Less giraffable animals may not wombat an eye when offered an uproarious opportunity to be parodied in pictures while monkeying or clownfishing around, but sometimes they're just outfoxed while being utterly amusing and captured on camera kidding and tomcat foolery for a quality picture of gorilla ludicrous antics. With good timing, the possibilities are endless. I'm Carl Azuz, picturing seeing you on the other side of the weekend. This is the world from A to Z, and you mean the world to me.